All those years I assumed she couldn't get off at a stop that was gone. I had it backwards. She couldn't get past it. 11 years of us slowing down at a demolished stop in our heads and letting her out into nothing. All she ever needed was a driver who'd take her to the end of the line.
Report number 9, Dark Teller. Filed by a municipal bus driver, 19 years on the night routes of the same city. Attached to his statement, a fare box tally and a passenger counter reading for a single ship. They disagree by 1 tool. Pulled at random, any night from his 19 years, they disagree by 1. The fare box and the counter have never argued about anyone else. Only about her.
In the daytime, a bus is transportation. Point A, point B, fares and schedules. After midnight, it's something else. After midnight, it's a room. A lit room, moving through a dark city. And you don't get to choose who's in the room with you. You just drive it.
Route 9 crosses the sleeping districts, apartment blocks, a rail yard, the long dead stretch where the old combine works used to be. Night regulars are a small congregation, and he knew them all. The nurse with the thermos, the 2 loaders from the bakery, the man who talks to his window, and the old woman. She boarded at the Fragment stop, gray coat, gray headscarf, hands folded on a cloth bag, and she always took the same seat, third on the right. She never bought a ticket. He let it go the way night drivers let things go. You don't tax the elderly at 2 in the morning. But the bus kept its own books. The passenger counter over the door registered her, every time, +1 on entry. The fare box stayed silent. One machine insisted she existed. The other had never heard of her. 19 years, he says. He thought that was just bad wiring. Drivers keep an unofficial chat, shift notes, radar warnings, which dispatcher is in a mood. He searched it for the gray coat and found 11 years of her. Different drivers, same woman, same seat. And the same ending to every mention, she gets off at Combinat. Which is a problem of a specific kind, because the Combinat stop does not exist. It was demolished in 2014 along with the combine works it served, the shelter cut down, the sign hauled off, the stop struck from the route table. Buses pass the spot at speed now. There is nothing to stop for. And yet, driver after driver wrote the same thing. Somewhere on that stretch, between one mirror check and the next, the seat empties. Nobody has ever seen her stand. Nobody has ever seen her walk the aisle. She is aboard before the dead stretch and gone after it, and the counter over the door. +1, -1, agrees.
11 years of shift notes. And the word that comes up most about her is usual. The usual grandma. The usual seat. You want to know the scary part? It's not her. It's us. 11 years of professional drivers deciding every night that this was normal. Because the alternative wasn't.
Once he started watching, the pattern took 3 shifts to show itself, and then it never stopped showing. Third seat on the right, her seat, the chat seat, 11 years of seat. Then one night, the second. He told himself he'd misremembered. The next week, the first seat, right behind the front doors, close enough that the mirror held her whole. Seat by seat, shift by shift, the gray coat was moving up the bus. Toward him. He asked the other Route 9 men. Long pauses. Then, yeah. Same? One of them, 26 years in, said the only wisdom anyone offered him. Keep your eyes on the road and make it to pension quiet. Instead, he went to the depot archive and pulled the route table from before 2014. The one with Combinat still on it. He needed to know what used to come after her stop. The old table lists one more entry past Combinat, end of the line. It says, depot, ... terminus. The night it finished, she boarded at Fabrichnaya and did not go right. She took the fold-down seat directly behind his cab, the one reserved, by sticker and by custom, for those who cannot stand the journey. In the mirror, she filled the frame. Gray coat, folded hands, and her eyes not on the window where 11 years of drivers had left her, but on the back of his head. He drove. The blocks went by. The rail yard went by. The dead stretch opened up ahead, the place where the combine works used to stand, and he made his decision and kept his eyes hard on the road. Because a rule was assembling itself in him, the one rule of the whole 19 years: do not confer. And from behind his shoulder, close, polite, in the voice of every grandmother who has ever ridden a night bus, she said, "Young man, not ignorant. My stop is next." He answered without turning, eyes on the empty road, in the flat voice of every driver who has ever announced a stop. "Next stop is the depot. End of the line." The silence behind him lasted 4 streetlights. And then the voice came again, smaller now, with something in it he describes as relief wearing the clothes of exhaustion.
"I know. I have been trying, for such a long time, to make it to the end of the ship."
He did not check the mirror again until the depot gate, and by then, he didn't need to. The bus was empty in the way buses are only empty at the end of the last run. Settled, done, a room with the lights still on and the evening over. The passenger counter above the door showed the night's arithmetic. Boarded, 1. Alighted, at terminus, 1. For the first time in 19 years, for the first time in 11 years of shift notes, the counter and the fare box agreed about her, because 0 fares and 0 passengers is, at last, a balanced book. The gray coat has not been seen on Route 9 since. The chat, he says, doesn't mention her anymore. Not even the old entries. He's looked.
All those years I assumed she couldn't get off at a stop that was gone. I had it backwards. She couldn't get past it. 11 years of us slowing down at a demolished stop in our heads and letting her out into nothing. All she ever needed was a driver who'd take her to the end of the line. What does that make us? 11 years. Even a ghost needed 11 years to find somebody who'd finish the route.
The exhibit comes from the depot's own records, and it is older than his statement. Personnel file. A Route 9 driver, employed until 2014, status closed with the phrase, "did not return from final run." The date of that final run is the night the combinat stop was demolished. His last trip sheet survives in the archive. Every field is filled in a steady, tired hand, all the way to the bottom line, the one that asks how many passengers were let off at the terminus. In that field, the driver who never came back wrote 3 words, all but one. The report remains open. Unresolved. A quiet one. Before the final report, a fragment. Fragment 03. A parking ticket, preserved in a municipal dispute file. Entry stamp, 11:41 p.m. Exit stamp, 11:41 p.m. The same minute. The meter, however, billed the vehicle for 9 hours and 14 minutes, and the municipality, this is why the file exists, refused to waive the charge. Their grounds. The barrier camera. Asked to produce footage of the vehicle entering and leaving within 1 minute, the system returned a single frame, timestamped 4:06 a.m., from the middle of the missing 9 hours. The frame shows the parking space. The space is empty. On the asphalt of the empty space lies the shadow of a car, sharp, complete, at an angle consistent with the overhead lighting. The dispute was settled out of court. The charge was paid. Not by the driver. This fragment remains unprocessed. Report number 10, the last in this file. Filed by a depot cleaner, she has never driven a bus, never held the license, never wanted to. Her statement concerns a single vehicle. A bus which, according to the fleet register, the security cameras, and the dispatcher on duty, was never parked in her building. She washed its floor anyway. She has the mop log to prove it, and the depot, notably, has not asked her to retract it.
Buses cool down at night. They tick. Metal lets go of the day panel by panel. You learn the sound like rain on a roof. That's the sound of a depot, 40 buses, cooling. You get used to it. What you don't get used to is the one that's warm.
After midnight, the depot is a parked congregation, 40 vehicles in numbered rows, engines ticking themselves cold, and one woman with a mop cart working the interiors to a schedule taped inside her supply room door. 19 years of routes end their day under her fluorescent lights, and she knows the roster by heart the way you know the alphabet. Which numbers sleep in which rows, which drivers leave their cabs tidy, which leave them like weather. The night in question, row 6 held one vehicle more than the alphabet allowed. Far end, last berth. Older model, the body style the city retired years ago. Old livery, the paint too rebrands out of date. And on the front destination board, white on black, a route and a terminus that between them no longer exist. 9. Combinat. Cleaners touch every bus they clean. It's the nature of the work. Her hand on the engine cowling told her the first impossible thing. Warm. Not sun warm, not heater warm. Run warm, the deep settled heat of a vehicle hours into a shift. Inside, the second impossible thing, mounted by the middle doors. A ticket punch of the old standing type, the kind the city removed from service in 2015. She knows because she spent years scrubbing around their brackets and years after that scrubbing around the holes, the brackets left. This one sat whole, bolted, and worked, and in its catch tray lay a single ticket, freshly punched, the chad still bright at the edges. And on the floor, beside the third seat on the right, folded once, laid rather than dropped, a gray headscarf.
Litter lies like litter, flum-kicked, forgotten. Anyone who's cleaned buses knows the difference. This was placed. Folded once and set down, the way you set something down when you mean to mark a seat. There's a difference, and at night you can see it.
She called the dispatch box, because procedure is a handrail, and she believes in handrails. The dispatcher put his cameras on row 6 and told her, with the patience of a man at the end of a long shift, that row 6 ended at berth 11, that berth 12 stood empty, that there was no bus, and that she should finish her rows and go home. She walked back with her phone out and the camera running, because 2 witnesses are better than 1 even when one of them is a phone. On the screen, berth 12, empty, the far wall, her own breath in the cold. Over the top of the screen, the bus, patient, old paint, drinking the fluorescent light. She lowered the phone, raised it, empty, lowered it, there. And while she had been away at the dispatch box, the destination board had changed. It no longer said Combinat. White on black it now read 9. Depot. Terminus. Then, from inside the empty bus, one sound. The ticket punch. A single, unhurried, mechanical clack, the sound of a fare being cancelled, of a journey being made official. She says she thought about the mop cart, and the schedule taped to her door, and every rule of a sane night. And then she climbed the front step anyway, because somebody had punched a ticket in there and the room deserved a witness. The cab was empty. On the driver's seat, folded with parade ground care, lay a depot uniform jacket of the old issue, the cut they retired with the old livery, folded the way drivers fold them at shift's end when the run is done and the keys go back on the board. And squared on top of the jacket, a trip sheet, filled out by hand, line after line, in handwriting steady and tired. She read the bottom line where it asks how many passengers were let off at the terminus. The ink there was darker than the rest. Newer, terror. It said, all. She took one object out of that bus, and she wants the record to show it was the trip sheet and nothing else. Because paperwork, she says, belongs to the people who have to answer for it, and somebody had finally finished this particular paper. She locked her supply room, clocked out, and did not look at row 6 from the parking lot. By morning shift, there was no bus in berth 12. There had officially never been one. But it had rained from 4 until 6, the whole yard slick and dark with it, except one rectangle of bone-dry asphalt at the far end of row 6, sharp-cornered, bus-sized, steaming faintly as the sun came up.
The dispatcher keeps telling me cameras don't lie. The rail was empty. Fine. Maybe. But somebody still had to bring that vehicle home after its last run. That's how depots work. Every bus comes home. Every run gets closed. Somebody drove it in and folded his jacket. Even if the run took 11 years.
The exhibits, And this file closes. The trip sheet is genuine. Municipal blank, print run of 2014, stock discontinued that same year. Document analysis, commissioned by the depot and returned in writing. The final line, all, was inked within 72 hours of examination. 12 years after the form was printed. The signature at the bottom matches, stroke for stroke, the personnel file of a Route 9 driver whose record has stood since 2014 under 3 words, did not return. It does not stand that way anymore. The depot closed his timesheet the morning after the cleaner's shift. Reason entered by a payroll clerk who declined to say why she chose the words, shift completed. Both reports in this episode remain open. Unresolved. Wanderia. And quiet ones. Tonight, perhaps, quieter than most.